Welcome to Beyond Neutral. I'm your host, Paula Reed. I think of the journey of life as a road that we're driving down. We get to speed up on the straightaways, ease back on the curves, and I don't know about you, but I've certainly had the obstacle in the roadway that I never expected to see, and I had to either slam my brakes on or swerve to avoid hitting it. But whether we're talking about our careers or relationships, or even just managing through life's phases, life is all about shifting and moving from one place to another. The challenge is that sometimes, in trying to get from where we were to where we want to be, we can get stuck while we're trying to shift. And we land in what I call the neutral space, where we're applying old ways of thinking to new situations. Join me and some incredibly inspiring guests as we talk about what it takes to shift into gear and get to where you want to be. Because here's the deal, if you're sitting in neutral, you're going nowhere. I am so excited today to have with me an incredible guest, Carrie Shigetomi. Carrie is the Senior Vice President of Product Development for Coach Leather Goods and Ready to Wear. And I have had the good fortune of knowing Carrie through many years of her career, and I'm so excited to have her here today. She has had an amazing career, having been in leadership roles within product development, merchandising, and design with some of the most well-known American brands, including obviously Coach, also Polo Ralph Lauren, Cole Haan, Calvin Klein, Ellen Tracy. I think, were you even involved with Kate Spade at one point?
I was.
Under the Tapestry umbrella, correct?
Absolutely,
yep.
Yes.
Yep. So an amazing career. So welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited because one of the many reasons that I'm excited to talk to you is I have had the good fortune of working with you on searches that I've had to fill along the way. And the joy of working on a search for Carrie is so many people have been touched by experiences with her throughout her careers. And when I talk to somebody and say, do you know Carrie Shigetomi? Inevitably, they say, oh my gosh, I love Carrie. And then it's always a great conversation from there. So I'm excited for you to share your wisdom with us today.
Oh, well, thanks, Paula. I mean, that's gratifying to hear.
Yeah, you've touched many, many, many careers along the way. So, product development isn't the type of thing that somebody grows up saying, I want to be in product development. And you don't necessarily go to college thinking I'll study product development. So tell me a little bit about how you started and ended up on this journey.
I don't even know if anyone grows up thinking I want to be an artist because, I'm sure they do, but for me, I always loved art and I wanted to be an artist. And I just thought, I don't know how viable that is. I took a lot of art courses. I also explored my love for psychology because that was another passion of mine. And then when I was in the beginning of college, I realized that there is a field of study, art therapy, that combines psychology with the use of art in psychotherapy. So I thought this could be perfect for me. So here I was living in Hawaii at the time, found out about this new major. And at the time, it really wasn't that well known. So I could have gone to one of two colleges. One was in the South, and the one that I opted for was in New York City at NYU.
NYU.
Yeah.
So you moved from Hawaii to New York.
Absolutely. That's what brought me all the way to the East Coast from Hawaii. My parents probably think that I was trying to move as far away from them.
I was going to say that's a long one.
Yes. Yeah. But from the minute that I moved to New York, I loved it. Loved it. I loved the energy. I loved the diversity. I felt that the city itself had so much energy and that there were so many possibilities, and that's what I always love. I still continue to appreciate that about New York City. And that's what kept me here for all this time too.
For all those years. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So you started out in design therapy. That was your major at NYU?
It was, it was a new major at the time. So you had to get a grounding in studio art, which I love.
Okay.
You had to be schooled in art education because art therapy was a lot of the times the clients or the patients were children because they couldn't communicate verbally, and so they used art as kind of their tool to express themselves.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I can see the connection between art therapy and running a global product development team. I find this
exactly.
Psychology and design go hand in hand in that role, I suspect.
Yes. And as you manage people, that therapy aspect becomes more and more important.
More and more important. Absolutely. So how did you transition from being an artist? You were a jewelry designer at one point when you first got out of college, right?
I was, because, at NYU, one of my professors was in charge of internships, and she herself was a sculptor. And so she set up an internship for me with a sculptor and a jeweler. So I worked for this person throughout the rest of my days as a student. And even after I graduated, I worked for him for a year. He decided after that point in time that he was going to move to Santa Fe and become the next, like, Georgia O'Keeffe, painting sunsets.
Okay. Yep.
And so I, by doing the jewelry with him, it formed my love for that medium. And so I continued to do that. And I sold my jewelry in galleries. I ended up having my own jewelry line in department stores and specialty stores. And that kind of launched me onto that creative side of things.
That's fascinating. Do you still do jewelry? Do you still do that as a hobby? No,
I do not. It's, I always say, wouldn't it be nice if I had the time? And you never seem to have the time, but I still have a love and appreciation for design and the whole creative process. So it's really worked out well for me in product development.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a great match. So you eventually, how did you make that transition from the creative? Because obviously on the design side of it, it's very much on the creative, and the product development side, you're really bringing to life somebody else's vision in a lot of ways, right? What was that transition like?
Well, for me, it kind of evolved over time. So I had my own jewelry line that I was creating and I was selling. And what I learned from that is, as much as I love that creative process, I also love the business side. I loved being able to understand how you take that creative vision and you make it saleable and
commercial.
Scalable.
Yeah, commercial. Oh, great.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it evolved. So even though then, after I moved from having my own jewelry line, I moved into designing for companies. But I also began to realize, as you move up in the design ranks, even that commercial aspect of it becomes more and more important, right? It's not just about pure creativity. You have to meet the business needs. And so that's where I really feel like product development was the perfect place for me, because I could oversee that whole development process and that whole experience of bringing something to fruition, but also then making sure that it brought value and contributed to the bottom line of the company.
That's fascinating. So when you think about kind of that career progression that you went on, can you recall any situation that was particularly challenging and as a result, an amazing learning experience? One of those situations where you were saying, wow, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, or how did I get here, but evolved as a tremendous learning experience for you.
Well, I'm sure we can all think of several in the course of our careers.
Any that you want to share, let me put it that way.
I would say that the most challenging situations I've come across in my career have been based on the leadership styles or the leaders that I reported into. Because I think, for me, it was really working for brands. So I think I understood going into it. I understood the brand. I understood whether I wanted to be associated with that type of brand, that kind of product, so I could make that assessment beforehand. The people part, it doesn't always come across, in the early stages. And it's only after working with a person for a while that you really understand and figure out the dynamics and how to make that relationship work. Right. And so it's so true about when people say, you don't work for a company, you work for a person and you work for people.
Right.
Yeah. And so to me, that was what kind of makes it or breaks it for me. Who I'm reporting to, does that person, beyond the aspect of the company and the brand, does that person share the same values that I share? And for me, I always want to feel like I'm learning. So what am I going to learn from this relationship?
So how did that realization for you kind of shape your own decision about your leadership style and the way that you wanted to interface and challenge the people who worked for you?
Growing up, I'm the second of four, so I don't know what that means in terms of being the middle child, but all I know is for me, I had to shoulder a lot of responsibility, and I took a lot of responsibility in caring for my younger brother and sister. I take that same sense of responsibility to my team. And so how do I make sure that I protect my team, that I allow them the space to be everything they can be, and also empower them to feel that they can continue to learn and grow and develop. And so, conversely, that's what I'm looking for myself too. Like, who am I reporting to and who am I working for and with that's going to allow me that same opportunity for growth?
That's actually some excellent career advice as people are thinking about like what to get from their roles, what to get from their next roles. It's not just the functions that you learn, right? It's also what you can learn from the leader you're working for, either as a leader or in terms of the way that they approach, the business itself. So the job that you have right now is a massive job. And for anybody who's not familiar with the sheer size of the coach organization, you currently manage 180 people. Yep, right. 180 people with only 4 direct reports.
Correct.
Right. And your team develops the retail value of about $4.5 billion worth of product a year. I call your job the kind of job that has a lot of zeros. Okay. A lot of people, a lot of dollars. Yeah. Big budget, all of that stuff. So the team that you manage is located on, is it 2 continents? Is that right? Do you have a team in the US and in Asia?
And we have a few people in Europe as well.
So 3. So 3 continents, 4 direct reports, 180 people.
Yes.
Big job. So you've really, at this point in your career, you're at that point where you're now a leader of leaders, because you really, in order to do that, I would imagine, have to depend on your team being incredibly good leaders as well. Right. And you have to be able to influence more from an enterprise system, right? Across cross-functional partners. So when you think about that, what do you think is, first of all, a fundamental difference or mindset that needs to happen and drive success in moving from being that functional leader into more of that enterprise leadership role?
That is a big change for people, because when you're starting out, it's all about what you can do and how you can move the needle and what you can accomplish. And I'm still very goal oriented, but what I've learned is that the way that you're going to achieve your goals is through the efforts of others. I can't possibly do all those things. I can't make those decisions. And when you're leading a large team, you can't be in the day to day. So, micromanaging is definitely out. And so when I
kills you,
it will
kill you and everybody around you, right? Yeah,
exactly. But so what I found that I really need to focus on are those. So I have 4 direct reports, and I need to make sure that they're set up properly, but also that they are capable of leading teams. And so for me, it's not about me anymore. It's all about the team. I'm in service to my team, honestly. It's about, someone said to me that you need to be egoless, and you do, because it's not, when you're talking about achievements, it's all about what your team did. It's never about what I did or what I'm choosing to do. It's about what the team is able to do. And so I feel like the team is really a true reflection of your worth and your value as a leader, like how you assemble that team, how you mobilize them, and what they're able to achieve. And someone said to me, reflected glory is much brighter. It has a greater halo effect. So at the end of the day, you're going to be basking in all of the light and the glory, but you know that it's not you that's doing it. It's really the team.
Thank you for sharing that. It has to be a challenge for people to stop from kind of that self-advocacy prescription that often is how you kind of get ahead and move up in an organization. And it's always around balancing self-advocacy with, as you put it, the greater good, and how does the organization really benefit from it? In your experience in mentoring and developing talent, what becomes the biggest stumbling block in getting somebody to kind of transition from that? It doesn't matter who came up with the idea. What matters is how that impacts the business. What's the biggest challenge there?
It's really hard for people. It's hard for them because, I often listen in meetings, and when people are talking about, what's going on in the business and their role in their team, and you hear that word so often, and in my business, and I'm doing this, and I'm pushing that, and I think it's just really, once you start to hear that and you listen for it, you have to, I try to take my team through that. It's like, it's not about the I, it's about what we are all doing. And when we work together, we're going to accomplish so much more. I'll tell you a funny story. It's not funny, but the outcome was really touching. And I always remember and reflect on it. I was working for a company in the Midwest, and we were just acquired by another company. And so I was in charge of design. And so we were merging the two design teams. One was based in the Midwest and one was based in New York. And so the decision was made that we were going to close the Midwest office where I was, and it was going to be moved, design was going to be moved to New York. And so basically all my team was being let go.
Oh, wow.
So it was a team of about 65 people. They were all being let go. They knew they were going to be losing their jobs, and they knew that they would have to start looking for, their next career position. And it was probably, they were given, I think, 4 months to do so, and so you can see that people were going to start to leave, and we were going to have a skeleton crew kind of trying to help make this transition. But, my team came to me and they said, all of us have decided that we're not going to leave you.
Oh, wow. That doesn't shock me, Carrie.
Well, and they said, we're going to stick together. We're in this together. And we are not going to leave until that last day when you move back to New York. Then we're going to start looking for other opportunities, but we're a team. And so we're all in this together.
Wow.
And that was amazing. And I will never forget what
I can imagine. That's a testament to you as a leader. I think one of the things that you mentioned is language, and that when you sit in a meeting and you hear I, it's almost like if you could tell somebody the first step in transitioning that mindset, I wonder if it's to start using we. Just simply start referring to my team, we, us, and kind of get your head out of that individual mindset in order to kind of facilitate that transition into how do you get to an egoless leadership, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, and it's tough. It's tough because the most successful people are the ones that really drive, and they drive for results. And so it
Yep.
really is about how much they can accomplish. So
Mhm.
how do you make that switch? And I think you're right. Language and talking in the plural as a team rather than you as an individual is a good first place to start.
Good first step. Yeah. Have you noticed any common thread among the people that you've led that kind of gives you an indication that somebody has the capacity to make that transition?
The people that, as I'm interviewing people for positions, the people that I look for are the ones that talk about people first.
Oh, interesting. Sure.
Yeah. Where they talk about, you know, how they've grown their team, how proud they are of their team, how they've mentored people. And when they talk about accomplishments, it's about, my team and I, all of those kinds of things are good signs for me that that person would be a good fit with my leadership and my style.
Absolutely. Oh, that's fascinating. Well, you've created many people in this industry who appreciate and respect your leadership style. So I think you've had that impact on a number of places and obviously on a number of careers. So phenomenal insight. If you had to think about what you could tell your younger self, okay? What would you tell your younger self, and at what age would you be when you learned that, or when you heard that advice?
I mean, I would have loved to have heard this when I was young and continue to have it reinforced. But what I would love to have heard is, you are good enough. You're fine.
God.
You're good. You are perfect the way that you are. Not trying to be, well, if you were more of this, or if you did more of that, or if you could only change that. We're all trying to change ourselves into something else and to better ourselves. Even a lot of feedback. You talk about performance reviews, and it's about feedback. And here, I think you need to work on this, or you need to be better at this. To me, what's more important is here's what you're really good at, and here's what I appreciate about you, and here's what makes you special.
Oh, that's fabulous, Carrie. And here's how you can use all of those gifts in a more effective way.
Lead with your strengths and what makes you unique. People will remember you. People they're going to go to you because of that. That's how you're going to stand out. And that's how you can make a difference.
And be comfortable because it's
Absolutely.
you. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people get into that place where they're trying to be something they're not. And not only does it not suit them, but they're not comfortable with themselves. And it's around that authenticity.
Absolutely.
That's such an important word, isn't it?
Yeah. And who wants to work with people who are all the same anyway?
It's true.
I mean,
it's true. We live in a society where we can order 9 different types of drinks, but we want all the same leader, right?
Right. Exactly. I speak to people, and one person said to me once, well, I'm never going to make a vice president. And I said, what do you mean? Why can't you be a vice president? Because I'm an introvert. And I can't do that.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't speak up in meetings, and I don't always have something to say. And I said, you don't always have to have something to say, but
we need more people who have nothing to say in meetings, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's classic. It's true. The power of the introvert. At least that's finally being recognized, right? Yes. Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, you have provided, which does not surprise me a bit, some phenomenal insight into both your journey and maybe what it takes for other people to be comfortable being who they are and succeeding as a result of who they are. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Fabulous conversation and a lot of takeaways for people who are at any variety of levels in their career. So appreciate very much your time, your partnership, And Carrie Shigetomi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paula. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us this week on Beyond Neutral. I'm your host, Paula Reed. Make sure to visit our website, www.readandco.com, for this week's show notes. And if you found value in today's episode, I would appreciate you giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts or share it with a friend. Also, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. All of this helps to support the show. Have a great week.